The blizzard howled across the frozen wasteland of Glacia 7 like a living thing, its fury unmatched by anything Captain Darius Holt had encountered in his 20 years of military service. Snow pelted his thermal suit in horizontal sheets, and the temperature had dropped to minus 60 degrees Celsius. His scanner flickered weakly in his gloved hand, the battery dying in the extreme cold. He shouldn't have been out here. Command had ordered a full evacuation of the research outpost 3 hours ago, when the storm system appeared on the horizon. But Darius had detected a faint distress signal emanating from the northern ridge, and he couldn't leave without checking it out. That was the problem with being a veteran. You developed a conscience that refused to let you abandon people, even when logic screamed at you to save yourself. The signal grew stronger as he pushed forward, his boots crunching through waist-deep snow. Then he saw it, a crashed shuttle, its hull torn open like a tin can half buried in a snowdrift. The vessel bore markings he didn't recognize. Definitely not human, not Krillian, not any of the usual species in this sector. "Hello?" Darius shouted over the wind, his voice barely audible even to himself. "Anyone alive in there?" A sound reached his ears, a low, pained growl that made his survival instincts flare. He'd heard sounds like that before, from wounded predators on a dozen different worlds, but the distress signal was coming from inside that wreckage, and Darius had never been good at walking away. He climbed through the jagged opening, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The interior was a mess of twisted metal and sparking electronics. And there, in the corner, huddled against the cold, was something that made him freeze. She was humanoid, but distinctly alien. Her skin shimmered with a silvery blue hue, and her eyes glowed with an amber luminescence that pierced the darkness. What struck him most were the wolf-like features, elongated canines, pointed ears that twitched at his approach, and claws that could tear through steel. She wore what looked like ceremonial armor, now cracked and damaged, with royal insignia etched into the breastplate. "Stay back," she snarled, her voice a mixture of feminine grace and bestial warning. Blood, purple blood, stained her side where a piece of shrapnel had pierced her armor. Darius raised his hand slowly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate. "I'm here to help. That wound needs treatment, and this storm is going to kill you if we don't move. I am Serena Varkai, Crown Princess of the Lycan Sovereignty," she said through gritted teeth, her pride evident despite her pain. "I do not need rescue from a—" "What are you, human?" "Captain Darius Holt, Terran Defense Forces, retired," he replied, kneeling down to her level. "And your highness, with all due respect, hypothermia doesn't care about your title. You're injured, your ship is destroyed, and this blizzard is only getting worse. Let me help you." Serena's eyes narrowed, calculating. Her hybrid nature was evident in every movement, the predatory grace of a wolf combined with the regal bearing of royalty. "Humans are weak, fragile. How could you possibly carry me through that storm?" Darius allowed himself a small smile. "You'd be surprised what humans can do when we're stubborn enough. Now, are you going to let me patch that wound? Or are we going to sit here and debate evolutionary biology until we both freeze to death?" Something in his tone must have convinced her, because she finally nodded. Darius moved quickly, pulling emergency medical supplies from his pack. The wound was deep, but his military training kicked in automatically. He applied coagulant foam and sealed it with a thermal patch, his hands steady despite the cold. "This will hold for now," he said, "but we need to get you to the outpost medical bay. It's 3 kilometers south. Can you walk?" Serena tried to stand, but her leg buckled immediately. The crash had done more damage than she'd admitted. "I cannot," she admitted, the confession clearly painful for her. "Then I'll carry you." She laughed, a harsh sound mixed with a growl. "Impossible. I weigh nearly twice what your human frame can support, especially in this gravity. You would collapse within minutes." Darius had already made his decision. He moved beside her, positioning himself to lift. "Princess in the war with the Krillian Empire, I carried my wounded squadmate 8 kilometers through enemy territory while under fire. He weighed 300 pounds with his armor. You want to know the secret?" "What?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her glowing eyes. "Humans don't know when to quit. It's our greatest weakness and our greatest strength." With a grunt of effort, Darius lifted her onto his back in a fireman's carry, adjusting her weight across his shoulders. She was heavy, damn heavy, but he'd carried worse. The journey back was a nightmare. Every step was a battle against the wind, the snow, and his own exhausted muscles. Serena remained conscious, her claws digging into his shoulder to maintain her grip, careful not to pierce his suit. Despite her injury, she used her enhanced senses to guide him, calling out obstacles he couldn't see through the whiteout conditions. Left. "There's a crevasse," she shouted into his ear. "Why are you helping me?" she asked during a brief lull in the storm. "Your people and mine have no alliance. No treaty. Why risk your life?" Darius adjusted her weight, pushing forward. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough. That is, not logical. Humans rarely are, Your Highness. We operate on something messier than logic. Call it compassion. Call it stupidity. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's what makes us human." Serena fell silent, contemplating his words. In her culture, such selflessness for a stranger, especially an alien stranger, was virtually unknown. Strength was valued, power was respected, but mercy? That was considered weakness. But this human, this fragile creature who by all rights should have collapsed long ago, continued to push forward through conditions that would have broken most of her own kind. His breathing was ragged, his muscles trembling with exhaustion, yet he refused to stop. She could feel his heart hammering against her cheek, could sense the absolute determination in every labored step. When the outpost finally appeared through the snow, Darius was operating on pure willpower. His legs threatened to give out with each step, his vision narrowed to a tunnel. But he made it to the entrance, keyed in his access code with numb fingers, and carried Serena inside before finally, gratefully, collapsing to his knees. Medical personnel rushed forward, taking Serena from his back and placing her on a stretcher. As they worked on her wound, she kept her glowing eyes fixed on the human who had done the impossible. Captain Darius Holt sat against the wall, chest heaving, frost covering his suit, a small smile on his face. He'd gotten her out. That was all that mattered. As the medical team stabilized her, Serena Varkai, Crown Princess of the Lycan Sovereignty, made a decision. When she returned to her people, she would tell them of this day. She would tell them about the human who carried her through hell itself, who refused to abandon her when logic dictated he should. She would tell them that perhaps there was more to these humans than met the eye. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics. Perhaps it was something simpler, something her species had forgotten in their pursuit of power. Perhaps it was their refusal to give up on each other, no matter the cost.